feel it is important for us to study the legacy of Martin Luther King?
I think it's important for men, women, children, young people, middle-aged people, old people, to continually explore the legacy of Dr. King. And I think it's important because Dr. King was offering us a vision of a way in which we could all live together productively and gracefully. And if we take a look at the kind of lives we're leading today, I think we would all question whether or not we are being as productive as we can and whether or not we are living our lives gracefully, sharing grace, receiving grace. And so when the answers to those questions come back not quite there yet, then I think Dr. King offers us a way forward. He offers us a way to make our own lives richer and also make the lives of other people fuller, richer. He offers his legacy, offers us teachings in how to make sure that everyone is included in the grand possibilities, and offers us teachings on how to do our part to make sure that everyone is included. So that's why I think it's important.
And what do you feel we can do to make our lives more productive?
I think one of the things that we can do to make our lives more productive is to change our definition of production. So oftentimes when we're talking about our lives being more productive, we're talking about doing more things in a day, checking off more tasks completed by the end of the week or by the end of the month, or more furniture or more money or more tangible things. I think if we would shift that definition of productive to mean that something has been improved in our neighborhood, in our family, in our community, in our schools, in our government, in our environment, then I think that we would, there are so many challenges that we sit and chat with each other about over the kitchen table, as it were, about how schools could be better, or what would make our neighborhood safer, or how our government could respond more to the needs of its citizens, whether we're talking about the federal government or the local government. So we talk about those things casually and often. I think if we would shift now to being a part of, an active part of the conversations rather than the passive talking part of the conversations, then that's what I would call more productive.
So based on what's going on now in the country as far as healthcare and other issues, what would you suggest the average American citizen, whether it's a student or adult, what would you suggest he or she do to participate in the process of making things a little better?
I think the place to start for adults is an assessment of their own family. Mm-hmm. What is lacking in their own family? And when you put that list together, when one puts that list together, then it seems to me there are going to be some things that are lacking that are relational. And so then the adults can take charge of enhancing, improving, expanding, enriching, deepening relationships. When things on the list break out into matters of economics or policy, then I think the adult's responsibility is to understand how their particular challenge around a medical bill or a housing problem or an employment problem, how their particular challenge with that issue is connected to or embedded in a systemic challenge. So we affordable housing is somehow connected to their own inadequacy. It's much more important for that adult to understand the problem of housing for all income levels, and then that will give them real clear direction on what the next step is to take.
Why do you feel education or higher education is important?
Higher education is an opportunity to understand just what I said, the relationship between the individual and the system. And I think you get a little bit of that in high school, but I don't think you get quite, I don't think you get a very broad or a very deep understanding of how systems impact individuals. And unless one has the opportunity to carefully consider the weight of systems on individual lives, then one is likely to assume falsely either the credit or the responsibility for where they find themselves. So I think education expands that and gives the person, the student, a clearer, more accurate vision of their particular place in the world.
And what is the secret of your success?
How are you defining success?
Well, you've accomplished many things, and right now you're heading the MLK program in which you are basically training other leaders for the future. I consider that being very successful.
If there's a formula rather than a secret, it would be tenacity and perseverance. This is really the doctoral journey. I mean, it's as much about tenacity and perseverance as it is about intellectual ability.
What keeps you going? Because you have a very heavy workload, it appears to me. And what keeps you going? What makes you just, keep on and on? Very involved in your community. Where do you get your strength? What are your rituals? How do you keep your steam?
What else would one do? So if I didn't do this, I'd be watching a lot of good TV and reading a lot of good romance novels. And neither of those things are bad. They are all delightful. It's just there is work to be done. And I've watched those who went before me do the work, and now it's my turn to do the work. And it's my turn to do the work in a teaching way so that those behind me will have the skills to do the work ahead of them.
Who are your role models? Or do you have any role models?
Yeah, sure. Lots of different folks for lots of different reasons. Certainly, I would start with the women in my family who are all very focused and committed both to a rich family life but also to making a difference in the communities in which they live. So the women in my family, my grandmother, my mother, my aunt, certainly Barbara Jordan and Shirley Chisholm, the way in which they courageously decided it was safe and important to stand out, and Franklin, our former mayor, just an incredibly brilliant woman who took on challenges and devoted 8 years of her life to making sure that our city was different and better. So there's some women that come to mind pretty quickly.
What advice do you have for the next generation?
Well, I'm hoping that the generation of women behind me does their own assessment of what they know about political change and what they don't know. And when they come up to a point where they don't know something, I'm hoping that they'll be courageous and ask. And when they come to the places where they know something, I hope they'll be
what makes a good leader?
The ability to present a vision with which I can connect. They don't have to have a path, but they have to have a vision.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Dr. Box.